Stumbled and fallen. She was trying to get up, but the guy was already there, moving faster than someone that size should have been able to move. He grabbed Chloe by the hair. She screamed and fought. We heard every minute of Chloe's struggle, her choking, before everything went dead silent again. La Cancha Spin and Smash was our go-to spot whenever we were all home from college or on break. So when Marcus called to play that weekend morning, I didn't even hesitate before driving over. It was a public paddle court on the edge of town, right up against the huge patch of thick woods. Most locals joked about it, but nobody actually goes in there, especially after dark. By the time I finally pulled over, the sun had crept up. Lily, Chloe, and Marcus were already there, trying to squeeze in a game before it got too hot. The second we walked up, something felt off. The whole vibe was heavy, the air was thick, and it was way too quiet. We joked about it, called each other paranoid, and started the game anyway. We'd been playing maybe 20 minutes when Marcus smacked the ball so hard it flew over the fence and vanished into the trees. He laughed, said he'd go get it, and jogged toward the woods. We waited on the court, goofing around and giving him shit for hitting it so hard. Suddenly, a scream ripped through the silence and shut off right away. Chloe's bat clattered to the ground, and Lily started shaking.
Marcus, this isn't funny!
Chloe yelled, but got nothing back. My stomach dropped, and my hands got all sweaty. Something was seriously wrong. I ran toward the woods with Lily and Chloe right behind me. We got to where the ball had gone over and found it sitting in some damp soil. But right next to it was fresh blood, with streaks of it leading deeper into the trees. My heartbeat picked up.
Oh my god!
Lily gasped, cupping her mouth. Marcus, where are you? I frantically looked around, yelling his name over and over. Suddenly, we heard branches snapping off to our right. We all froze and squinted. There was a shadow that looked like it was moving through the trees, coming right at us. In a flash, a dude stepped out slowly. He was tall, built like a brick house, and wore beat-up work clothes. A dirty mask covered his face. Instead of hurrying or freaking out, he was moving calmly. In his hand was a heavy-duty wood-cutting tool. Dark was something that looked seriously fresh. All of us screamed and sprinted back toward the court. Chloe and Lily were right behind me.
Ethan!
Chloe called out. I looked back to find that she'd stumbled and fallen. She was trying to get up, but the guy was already there, moving faster than someone that size should have been able to move. He grabbed Chloe by the hair. She screamed and fought. We heard every minute of Chloe's struggle, her choking, before everything went dead silent again. Lily was crying and hyperventilating. I grabbed her arm and pulled her back to the court. We tried calling 911, but had no bars. The phones weren't working. We ran to the front gate, the one we'd come in through. It wouldn't open. The latch was jammed, like someone had wedged it shut. We pulled and pushed, desperate to get out. We're trapped. We need to hide, I told Lily. From the woods, we heard footsteps. He was coming back. We split up, figuring maybe we could throw him off. I went one way and Lily headed toward the bleachers. I could hear him walking, whistling casually, like he was just out for a hunt. I was hiding behind an equipment shed, trying to stay quiet. All of a sudden, I heard Lily shriek. I peeked around the corner. He'd found her and was hauling her out from behind the bleachers. She was kicking and screaming her head off, but he didn't even flinch as he yanked her toward the woods. I watched in horror as he swung the blade and finally silenced her. He tossed her chopped head in the woods before he turned, looking for me. My heart was pounding. I was terrified it would give me away. I was on my own now. All three of my friends were dead. I had to get the hell out of there if I wanted to survive. I looked along the tree line and spotted a pair of old shoes, a torn backpack, and scraps of clothing half buried in the dirt. This wasn't random, or his first time. This place belonged to him. This was his hunting ground. The footsteps stopped, and everything went silent. I was breathing hard, looking all around, waiting for him to jump out. Minutes passed like hours. It was like the woods just ate him up. Suddenly, I felt a breath on my neck. He was right there. Gripping my paddle racket, I swung around and hit him as hard as I could. It connected and hit him in the head, and he stumbled back a bit. I hauled ass toward the gate and body slammed it, over and over, until the rusty latch finally busted. I squeezed through, slicing my arm on the jagged metal. I didn't even care. I kept booking it without looking back until I hit the main road. I waved down a car and they called the police. When they showed up, they scoured the whole woods and court. The bodies were never found. For the fact, there were barely any blood except for some faint marks in the dirt heading into the trees. Like whoever did it had totally cleaned up their mess and covered their tracks. One officer walked into the tree line searching, but he too stopped and went still. He was staring at a tall figure standing motionless between the trunks. The officer called for backup. They searched for hours but never found anyone. My friends' bodies were never recovered. The case went cold with no suspect or evidence. After my graduation, I moved away and left Oregon completely, but I still can't shake it. I live the dawn every single night in my nightmare. I still hear Lily screaming for mercy and Chloe asking for help. And the worst part is, I keep thinking about why he let me go when he could have caught me. Maybe he wanted me to escape, to live and remember, because that's what hunters do. They mark their territory, and they leave warnings. At 25, I was stuck in this soul-sucking 9-to-5 corporate job in Miami, and playing Padel every weekend at the local court near my apartment was the only thing I looked forward to. I usually went with my friend Sarah. We'd been playing together for months now, and she had rarely ditched me. That Saturday, when I got to the courts, most people had already left. The parking lot was almost empty, with everyone clearing out because of the weather. The usual Miami humidity made worse by the threat of rain. The court surface still glistened from last night's shower, and the only sound was the soft thud of a distant ball. I texted Sarah to see if she was still coming. She called me back right away and said she couldn't make it. She wasn't feeling well. I was already there, so I figured I'd just hit some balls against the wall for a bit and practice my serve. Then I'll head home before the rain starts. I was headed toward the courts when this really tall, good-looking guy came up to me. He had to be 6'5". "Hey, you looking for a partner? I was supposed to meet someone, but they bailed." He smiled. I didn't know the guy, but the courts were public and there were other people around. Plus, a few cars were still in the lot.
Sure. Just one match, though. It looks like it's going to rain.
Perfect. He told me his name was John, and he was a banking professional. We started chatting as we began the game. He cracked a few jokes, and I loosened up a little bit. About 10 minutes into the game, his phone started blowing up. He just let it ring and kept playing, but it kept going over and over. Finally, he had to stop and pull it out. He flashed me an apologetic smile as he glanced at the screen. He blinked and shoved it back into his pocket. "Sorry about that. My ex won't stop calling."
No problem.
We kept playing, but his phone was ringing constantly. He just kept ignoring it. After a little while, he started looking really frustrated and tense. His shots got way harder and more aggressive. It started giving me the creeps, like the way he moved and how he looked at me between points. It was too intense. I decided I was done.
Hey, I think I'm going to head out. Looks like the rain's starting.
It wasn't raining yet, but I needed an excuse. He stopped mid-serve and looked at me. "You can't leave in the middle of a game," he snapped.
We're not really keeping score. I just need to go.
"You can't leave," he snarled and rushed towards me. He covered the whole court in a couple of steps. Up close, he was even taller than I'd pictured, seriously towering over me. My eyes fell on a deep, perfect circle of a scar around his neck, like someone had tried to choke him with a wire or a thin rope. His eyes were huge for his face, and they were locked on me with this really unsettling, intense stare.
John, I need you to step back.
I was trying to sound firm. He grinned but didn't move. I needed to get far away from him. I turned to leave. Suddenly, he grabbed my hair and yanked it hard. I screamed. He giggled like a schoolgirl. My heart started pounding. I looked around and realized we were the only people around. I knew I couldn't outrun him. He was too big and strong. So I did the only thing I could think of. I turned around and slapped him across the face as hard as I could. Everything went still. His smile disappeared and his eye twitched. This cold, violent anger replaced everything. He slowly raised his hand and held it up in front of my face like he was showing me how easily he would crush me.
You have no idea what I could do to you. No idea what I've done to others.
He growled, and before I could even blink, he just full-on stomped on my foot. It was so hard I actually heard a little snap. The pain was intense. I crumpled to the ground, sobbing. He lingered a bit longer, as if he was deciding whether to do more or leave me be there. After about 5 minutes, he calmly picked up his racket. "I'll see you around." He walked away and left me there in the court in pain, humiliated and terrified. I sat there for I don't know how long, crying and trying to breathe through the pain. My toe was broken, I could tell. Finally, I managed to stand and limp to my car and drove myself to urgent care. The drive to urgent care was a blur of panic and pain. My phone buzzed with messages from Sarah, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I was alone, more than I'd ever been. They confirmed the injury, asked how it happened. I told them someone stepped on it and didn't mention the rest. I didn't want to explain. I never went back to those courts or played Padel again. Every time I think about going, I see his face and the scar around his neck. I see his hand raised in front of me. My mind floods with a hell of a lot of questions. At one point, I reported it to the police and gave them a description. They said they'd look into it, but they never found him, and said there was no security cameras at the courts and no way to identify him. They suggested I get a restraining order, but you can't get one against someone you can't identify. The incident really shook my soul. I have stopped going out alone, talking to strangers or trusting friendly smiles, because I learned something that day. Some people aren't what they seem. Some people are just waiting for the right moment to show you who they really are. And by the time you realize it, it's too late. Sometimes, in my dreams, I still hear his voice. "I'll see you around." And I wake up with my heart pounding, convinced he's just outside my door. In my senior year, I had a major crush on Liv Parker. She was the sports club president, and seriously the coolest girl in the whole world, and totally out of my league. So when she texted me on Friday evening, asking if I could meet her at the paddle courts at midnight, I was completely blown away. I was so stoked, I didn't even stop to think about why she'd want to meet so late or why she picked the courts near my house instead of hers. I only said sure, and got there at around 11:45. The courts were totally empty, except for the streetlight and the glow from the court lights that stayed on all night. I waited for Liv, checking my phone every minute, texting her, but hardly got anything back. By 12:30, I finally realized that she wasn't showing up. The whole thing was a prank to make me look stupid. Someone either used her number or set me up as a joke. Either way, I'd been totally played and felt like a complete moron. I was humiliated and pissed at myself for thinking someone like her would actually want to meet me. As I turned to leave, I heard the sound of a ball being hit. Someone was playing at midnight on one of the courts. I walked closer, thinking maybe it was Liv waiting for me, playing around until I got there. I got right up to the fence and peeked through. A man was inside the court, wearing nothing except black boxers and a rundown t-shirt that looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks, maybe longer. His hair was sticking all over, and he was barefoot. When he swung his racket, I saw a streak of blood running right down his nose. The dude didn't even try to wipe it or, acknowledge it. He just kept playing. I stretched up to see who was on the other side, but nobody was there. He was totally by himself. Still, he was playing like he had someone across the net. He'd hit the ball and then run to the other side and react as if someone had returned it, hit it back, and run again. And he was talking and having a full conversation with this invisible opponent.
Good shot, mate.
He'd yell before he'd laugh and clap like he was genuinely impressed. A few seconds later, he'd get aggressive and angry.
Come on, that was out! That was fucking out!
He'd scream at empty air, argue with himself, and go back and forth. Suddenly, he'd calm down and keep playing. I stood there, frozen and watching. This man didn't seem right in the head. I needed to get out of there before he noticed me. I slowly backed away from the fence, turned around and started walking toward the exit, trying to be quiet without drawing attention. I was maybe halfway to the parking lot when I realized that the sound of the ball hitting had stopped, and so did his voice and the running footsteps. My chest tightened. I walked faster with my heart pounding, almost got in my car when a hand on my shoulder stopped me mid-step. I froze. I couldn't move or breathe. Slowly, I turned my head. The man was standing right behind me, face to face and too close, which meant he'd followed me all that distance, all that time, and I hadn't heard a single footstep. He was staring at me, with blood still running from his nose. He smiled and wiped the blood with the back of his hand. It smeared across his face.
That was a tough match, man. My opponent is really good. Gave me a real challenge tonight.
He was talking about the invisible person. I blinked and didn't say anything. His hand was still on my shoulder. My heart was pounding in my chest, and my hands were shaking. But I don't like being disturbed. I came here at this hour to play with my friend in peace. The mention of that friend made my skin crawl. I didn't wait to hear any more. I ran as fast as I could without looking back. I got in my car, locked the doors, and floored the gas. When I looked in the rearview mirror, he was still standing in the parking lot, watching me. He wiped the last trace of blood from his nose before he raised his hand and waved slowly, like he was saying goodbye to an old friend. I drove home and didn't tell anyone what happened. Who would believe me? That I got catfished to empty courts at midnight and saw a man playing against an invisible opponent? It sounded insane even to me, but it happened. A week later, I drove past those courts during the day. People were playing. Everything looked fine, but I couldn't shake the image of that man, and of the blood on his face, and of him arguing with no one, and of how quietly he'd moved. I'm in college now, and dating this super cool girl from math class. Liv Parker moved to a school 2 states over, so I barely ever saw her. But I still never go near those courts, or drive past them at night. I keep thinking about what he said, and it makes me wonder who that friend was. Was it someone real who died? Someone he killed? Or maybe a ghost he thinks he's playing with? I honestly don't know which option is worse. But I know one thing for sure. That man is still there and still playing at midnight, talking to someone who isn't there. And I'm just grateful I ran when I did, because something tells me if I'd stayed any longer, he would have asked me to join them and to be the next friend who plays with him forever.